Welcome to News Central TV. I'm Dashen, Usman. The top stories at this hour. Federal government of Nigeria begins drainage clearing on federal roads. Nigeria Customs seizes 1.5 billion naira worth of firearms. Voters head to polls in the UK with Labour tipped to win. Details in a moment. To update on the floodings in Lagos, Minister of Works David Umahi has ordered the desilting of drainages along federal roads in Lagos State with a view to deflooding the highways. The Federal Controller of Works, Lagos State, Olukorede Kesha, disclosed this in a statement made available on Thursday. The directive came after business and commercial activities were grounded on Wednesday following a 10-hour downpour in many parts of Lagos and Ogun states. The resulting flooding brought down a two-story building in the Mushin area of Lagos, grounded vehicular movement on the roads, and overwhelmed thousands of residents while pupils could not attend schools in parts of the state. Meanwhile, in April, Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, issued a warning that the state is set to face abnormal rainfall this year. According to Wahab, a total of 1,936.2 millimeters predicted rainfall has been predicted for the state. Now, this can be backed up by the amount of rain seen in the last few days, accompanied by lots of floods in Lagos State. News Central's Bettina Nwelu went around some areas in the state for an on-the-spot assessment of the flood.
This week, Lagos has been battered by relentless rain and severe flooding, throwing daily life into chaos and sparking serious concerns. The torrential downpours began early Monday morning and have hardly let up since, inundating several parts of the state and causing widespread disruption.
The process of converting the wetland into livable space was done in many areas exceedingly irresponsibly. But the process of that reclaiming now impacted so negatively on the capability of that wetland to get rid of the water when the heavy rains come, because that's what the wetlands were doing in years gone by. But we now went and broke that cycle in many areas in Lekki by blocking what should have been natural areas for passage of the rainwater.
Vehicles that cannot withstand the pressure of the rain break down, contributing to the already abnormal traffic. News Central's correspondent reported severe flooding at Yanawaru Olopomeji, triggering a massive traffic snarl stretching all the way to Alakpere bus stop, Wemco Junction in Agege, and in Shomolu.
I discovered here is a little dam.
Oh, okay.
And the gutter, I don't know how deep that gutter is.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think the water see enough space. Because I think there's enough space. I don't think the water will leave the gutter to enter inside the compound.
The economic fallout is staggering. Markets and businesses in the hardest hit areas are closed, resulting in crippling financial losses. While some flooded areas and canals are finally being cleared, experts argue that a proactive approach could have mitigated this disaster.
What you sow is what you reap. So you, individual out there, for your neighbor's sake, do not throw your plastic on the road again. Even if you have to put it in your pocket, put it in your pocket. My God, until you find somewhere where you can put those little plastic bags in a safe place, some kind of dustbin like this. Because if you throw it on the road, it's going to go and block the drain. That can now cause flooding, which could end up killing somebody, and you will get the consequences.
On July 1, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency issued an alert on its X handle, predicting a significant surge in rainfall intensity and frequency across northern and north-central states. The agency cautioned citizens to brace for more downpours in the coming days, urging everyone to stay informed with weather updates and take necessary precautions. Despite the challenges, the resilient spirit of Lagos remains unshaken as residents eagerly await decisive action from the government to rescue their state. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Now joining me on the news to discuss this is Philip Japo, Executive Director, Reginald Development Initiative. Hello, Philip. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for bringing me on your show this morning.
Now, as it is, we see how heavy rains have resulted in severe flooding in parts of Lagos, disrupting free flow of movement. Now, I would like to know what you make of this.
Well, even from your news report from your correspondent, it's very evident with what happened yesterday and what we anticipate will happen in the next few days, that the state of preparedness of the state is questionable. But then it is not just Lagos alone. The state of preparedness for this disaster, which NIMET had warned about, not last month, but I think about 2 or 3 months ago, NIMET had predicted that this would happen. So we will have expected that Lagos, just like other states of the Federation, will have done the same kind of things we started hearing from yesterday, clearing the drainages, opening up the canals, emergency actions. These things should have been done before now. Even the Minister of Works, who ordered for the opening of the drainages and on the major roads in Lagos, these are things that could have been done earlier. It would have saved us this needless chaos which crippled the state yesterday. So for me, I believe these actions are coming a little too late.
Okay. Now, Philip, the rain and flood patterns, actually played ugly in other African countries, not just Nigeria. Countries like South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, and, the likes last year. But Nigeria seems to be gradually picking up the patterns again with the volume of rains this year. Should we be worried about a more pronounced climate change shockers this year?
Well, I would see what we saw yesterday and what we've been seeing across the Federation in recent time actually started in 2012. It was in 2012 that we had the most catastrophic flood, which I think flooded about 21 states, real flooding. And local Jordan was the epicenter of the flooding before it emptied into the Atlantic through Bayelsa. But so it has been a steady pattern. It has been growing, it has been increasing. And along with this has also been the early warning systems that have been very, very effective. NIMET is doing a great job. The Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency is doing a great job. But the state level interventions and the agencies that are supposed to respond through some actions, the kind of things we start hearing from yesterday, is where we have the missing link. We need proactiveness, and proactiveness does not mean we are talking about evacuation, opening up the canals when it has already happened, when economic losses are being felt. That's not it. It should be before. So this warning, like I said, came 2 or 3 months ago. We never saw anything. There was no sensitization. There was no action that people could see that, oh, this is a matching order as a result of NIMET warning. It never happened. So what is happening in South Africa and those other places? Yes, it's the same thing. We are all facing, climate impacts in different ways. There's more slides in South Africa and some other parts of of Africa, but we are particularly affected by unusually heavy rains. So if we tackle the canals that are blocked, if we address the issue of people dumping indiscriminate waste on, the drains.
Yes, talking about people dumping, a refuse. We also saw a video of that, yesterday, where a couple actually came out with their trash and dumped it on the water, into the refuse, and then it goes into the waterways and the drainages and blocks, these drainages some more. What approach, since you're talking about it, what approach would be necessary to bring about cultural reorientation in that regard?
Well, I think laws exist. The enforcement is where we have the issue. I don't think most people who do these things are not aware that what they are doing ultimately will affect others and then come back to them. But the sanctions are not where we have the problem. So we want to see real penalties, enforcement of the penalties for those who do these kind of things. And then the sensitization should intensify. Beyond adults, also kids, through these things, we should catch them young and make them understand that, look, you don't dump your waste in the middle of the road. You don't dump your waste on somebody else's property. You just have to dump your waste where it is said that you should do that. When we start saying that, and then when we see responsibility on the part of government, because we also have, beyond the dumping of waste, you also have people who are building on floodplains, who is giving them permits. What we saw yesterday in the Lekki axis, most houses do not have drains. So who licensed these things? Who permitted these things to happen? So by the time we start seeing sanctions for this kind of actions, I think we will be on the right path. But unfortunately, when the floods start, there's this noise, everybody talking, and then after the rains, we'll go back to life, business as usual, and that's why we continue to have this year in, year out. We'll come back if care is not taken next year to be talking about the same thing. Well, it's time to go beyond talk to action.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Philip, for showing up and speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Now to security matters. The Nigeria Customs Service has seized assorted arms, drones and military equipment worth 1.5 billion naira exported from Turkey to Lagos State. Comptroller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi disclosed this in Lagos at the Murtala Mohammed Area Command of the service. He said the command, acting on intelligence from local and international collaborators on June 19, 2024, deployed its personnel to man all the exit points around the airport. Adeniyi revealed that the duty-paid value of these illicit arms is about 270.88 million naira. The customs boss also put the value of military and paramilitary equipment improperly imported at 1.29 billion naira, with the total value of the item put at 1.5 billion naira. He said analysis of recent seizures showed that some Nigerians based in Turkey are purchasing, packaging, and exporting these illicit arms to Nigeria. Let's also tell you that the frightening security situation across Nigeria topped the agenda at the National Assembly on Wednesday, with the lawmakers shocked over heinous suicide bombing attacks that took place in Goza Town, Borno State on Saturday, 29th June 2024. At the Red Chamber, for instance, debates at plenary were on for several hours, with the lawmakers declaring that the country was on fire because its security system had collapsed. The lawmakers blamed the recent suicide bombings in Goza on a failure of intelligence on the part of security forces. These were sequel to a motion moved by Senator Ali Ndume on a suicide attack in the state by Boko Haram insurgents. Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has underscored the importance of civil-military relations as a key factor in peacekeeping, which cannot be overemphasized. General Lagbaja was speaking in Plateau State during the commissioning of projects as part of the activities to mark the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration hosted by the 3-Division Maxwell Kobe Cantonment in Jos. News Central's Chizoba Anyongwe, who is on the entourage of the Army Chief, now tells us more.
Wednesday's activities took the Chief of the Army Staff to Mangu and Riom local government areas of Plateau State, as well as some other council areas, where he commissioned 5 renovated and fully furnished blocks of classrooms, computer rooms, 50,000-litre solar-powered boreholes, as well as extension of medical outreach to communities as part of activities to mark the 2024 NATSEL.
The Nigerian Army equally funds civil military cooperation projects to bring succor to communities impacted by conflict. This intervention is part of our people-oriented projects to commemorate the Nigerian Army Day celebration 2024 holding here in Plateau State.
The GOC 8th Division drew the intervention by the Army in Mangu, his hometown, in recognition of his contribution to the Nigerian Army, as acknowledged by the Chief of Army Staff.
Thank you, sir, for putting smiles on the faces of the people of Mangun district of Mangu local government, as our children will henceforth enjoy high-quality primary education, which remains the foundation of other levels of education in the society. I and the entire traditional council, including the good people of Mangun, will remain eternally grateful for this kind gesture.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang, represented at the event, commended the Army for the civil-military relations.
We say thank you on behalf of the people of Plateau State. We will not take this for granted, and we will continue to have a very good symbiotic relationship with the Nigerian Army, because we believe that the role they are playing in the society is a very important role to keep the peace and the progress of the people.
Now, as happy as these locals behind me are today, and with the joy they are showing, the Chief of the Army Staff is expecting that this happiness of theirs will materialize into greater relationship between them and the security agencies on the plateau to ensure that maximum peace is restored back on the plateau in no longer time. From Riom, local government area of Plateau State, Chizoba Anyonwe, reporting for News Central.
Still talking security, female police officers across the African continent have been tasked to build networks of collaboration so as to help contribute to policing on the continent and tackle crime and criminality. Now, this was made known at the ongoing conference in Abuja, organized by the International Association of Women Police in Africa. Amadin Uyi reports.
The members of the top table. The conference had in attendance female representatives from police services across Africa. Stakeholders in attendance said the conference will help resolve issues of gender disparity in security services, build networks for collaboration and unity among female police officers across the continent.
This conference brings together outstanding women police officers in law enforcement and law enforcement officials from across Africa and beyond. It aims to strengthen unity, enhance capabilities, and provide invaluable networking opportunities for women in policing within the African region.
Other notable female personalities present commended their efforts aimed at bringing women from across the continent to deliberate on improving security and reducing crime.
There are many threats, there are many challenges, there are many consequences in the field that you've chosen to serve. But as beautiful as you are in your uniforms this morning, I pray that the beauty comes from within and that you remain committed to securing the peace of our countries, of our communities, of our families.
This gathering is not just a testament to the remarkable achievements of women in law enforcement, but also a commitment to the continued progress and empowerment of women in this crucial field.
As we come together to share knowledge, experiences, and best practices, let us reaffirm our collective resolve to promote safety, justice, and empowerment in our respective countries, to demonstrate the saying, anything a man can do, a woman can do it much, much better.
The Inspector General of Police says that the deliberations by female police officers will help reposition efforts aimed at tackling insecurity.
Policing in Africa faces unique challenges, from transnational crime to domestic violence, demanding nuanced approaches. The collective wisdom and experiences shared by the women police officers present today will be crucial in crafting effective, culturally sensitive solutions.
The conference, which is hosted by Nigeria, is organized by the International Association of Women Police in Africa. The Nigeria Police Force also launched its gender policy to promote women inclusion in all aspects of its operations. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The news returns after the break. Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria's House of Representatives has scored itself high, saying it has surpassed previous houses in terms of bills introduced and passed in the first year since inauguration. The Speaker of the House made this known during the House of Representatives Open Week, marking the first anniversary of the 10th House of Representatives. Idong Joseph reports.
The Open Week provides citizens the opportunity to once again engage directly with lawmakers as it aims to promote accountability. The Speaker of the House took time to reel out achievements of the House in the last 12 months, presenting their scorecards to the public.
In its first session, the House introduced 1,351 bills, the highest number in any first session since 1999. Out of the 240 public petitions currently under investigation, a total of 40 cases have been closed.
The Speaker of the House says that the presentation allows the House to showcase its achievements, highlight its successes, and also review areas where challenges were witnessed.
While attributing the progress made so far to the substantial sacrifices, unity of purpose, patriotic commitment to service, and purposeful leadership, there is yet room for improvement in the performance of the House in the years ahead.
The Open Week witnessed the attendance of former speakers, ministers, governors, members of the diplomatic community, and presiding officers as they all took turns to make observations on areas where they need improvements.
How funds are processed in the National Assembly has been on the front burners of national discourse for quite a long time. And I think it is time for us to throw this challenge to our citizens without hiding anything. Not that they think National Assembly is hiding anything, no.
I want you to revisit the Firearms Act. Today in Nigeria, we are the country where we have the highest number of illegal arms in circulation.
The Speaker of the House assured citizens that the House under his watch will continue to run an open parliament that actively embraces citizens' input during the process of lawmaking and oversight responsibilities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Peace-building experts in Nigeria have called on government to adopt a non-kinetic approach in conflict resolution, saying this will create more impact with longer-lasting results. This was during a national consultation session in the nation's capital, Abuja, jointly organized by the United Nations and the Nigerian Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. News Central's Joshua Imarai has more of the details.
Key stakeholders united in the goal of peace-building converged in Abuja. The national consultation session seeks to shape an agenda for peace ahead of the forthcoming conference with the theme Summit of the Future.
We are gathered here today, this morning, as partners to amplify the voice of peace and to forge a common alliance in a build-up to the Summit of the Future. At the heart of our discussion today lies the imperative to address the root causes of conflict and violence, to prevent crises before they escalate, and to build a more just and equitable world for all.
We have today, as a humanity and as an international community, to make a choice that to be made between different pathways, one being a future of breakdown, and one being the future of breakthrough for a better world for everyone.
But Nigeria is also ethnically diverse, and it's got over 300 ethnic groups. How do you ensure that all of these people have belonging, feel a sense of belonging, feel included in governance? And of course, Nigeria is made up of men and women. And so we need to think structurally about how we can ensure that opportunities exist for everybody along the various tiers of identity in our country.
Stakeholders here say there is a need for a change in strategy in addressing conflict and peace-building efforts. They say governments must adopt a tactical and non-kinetic approach to effectively mitigate conflict. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Thank you, Joshua, for that. Now, healthcare stakeholders in Nigeria have called for improved budgeting and access to affordable healthcare for citizens. This was during a press conference in Abuja ahead of a summit being organized by the All-African and Medical Wellness Expo coming up in August and expected to help reposition Nigeria's healthcare sector. Marvelous Obomanu reports.
The issue of brain drain in the health sector has been an ongoing conversation in the country in recent time, following the mass migration of doctors out of Nigeria, seeking better pay and wages abroad.
Out of 40,000 registered Nigerian doctors, we only have 9,000 practicing now. UK alone has 10,000 of our doctors. US, 4,000. This is how they are distributed all over.
At this meeting in Abuja, stakeholders attributed Nigeria's poor healthcare delivery to low budgeting, accusing authorities in charge of not enforcing necessary standards to enable the nation's health sector function at its peak.
The WHO, way back in 2000, advised the whole nations that healthcare budgeting should be nothing less than 15%. We have been budgeting between 5 and 7. This regime got to 9%, still under budgeting.
We've had situations where nurses who are not qualified give injection and they miss it. At the end of the day, you have abscess, your leg, if they damage the nerves, you start limping. We've seen children like that. But many of these health personnel are not persecuted. We let them go.
They say citizens are being denied access to quality health care because most public health centers are not in good shape, while private centers hold sway.
The treatment can be available and the treatment may not be affordable. And this is one of the driving factors for medical treatments. For example, you go to an hospital and they give you exorbitant price. Maybe you look around, you don't know any other hospitals to go again. So what will you do in this case? You have to start looking for either where to loan, to get the loan, or to sell your property.
I've seen patients die because there is no donor. Meanwhile, there might be blood in the bank, but they will ask you to go and bring somebody. I've seen patients even run away from hospital because they don't want to charge them for hospital bill. Yes, they will. If they just get better small like this, they will run. Or some, when they don't know, you better may go buy for house, so you go come buy, you go come pay hospital bill again. You know, go work. Now we can't do 2-0. And just in the night like this, it's small, they'll pack their bag. They'll first carry one bag inside pocket and go. Then they'll say, Baba want to go and receive fresh hair. Abscond. You will not see them again.
Many stakeholders here urge government to muster a strong political will to discourage medical tourism and increase budgetary allocation. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomanu.
The news continues in West Africa, where 10 people died when a house fire broke out near Guinea's capital, Conakry, on Wednesday. According to authorities, the blaze occurred in the Ansumaya neighborhood, killing 7 women and 3 men. One of the victims' relatives said the fire had completely taken over the house in a video broadcast by the local media outlet. The footage also showed charred materials on the floor and sections of the building walls blackened by fire. The witness said the fire was caused by a short circuit following a power cut. Guinea has seen a series of tragedies in recent months, including a huge blaze at Conakry's main fuel depot in December, which killed 24. In Central Africa, 25 soldiers accused of fleeing the enemy while fighting M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been sentenced to death on Wednesday during a one-day trial. A total of 31 defendants, including 27 soldiers and 4 of their civilian wives, appeared before the Mutembo Garrison Military Court in North Kivu Province near the front line. Jules Muvweko, one of the defense lawyers, said they had faced several charges, including fleeing the enemy, dissipating munitions of war, violating orders, and theft. The other accused, including the 4 women, were acquitted for lack of evidence, he said. Since the end of last week, the M23 have taken several towns on the northern front of the conflict. Still ahead, voters in the UK head to polls with Labour tipped to win. We'll bring you details after the break. Now on World Wrap, UK voters head to the polls in a general election widely expected to emphatically return the opposition Labour Party to power and end nearly a decade and a half of Conservative rule. Britain's political leaders made a frantic push for votes late Wednesday in the last hour of campaign. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak insisted in a closing speech to supporters that the contest was not over, while conceding he was the underdog. Now, polls show his centre-left party set for its first general election win since 2005, making Keir Starmer the party's first prime minister since Gordon Brown in 2010. Now, it will represent a swing leftwards for the UK after almost a decade and a half of right-wing Conservative governments dominated first by austerity, then Brexit, and now a cost of living crisis. For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, AIA Hagen. Hello, AIA. It's nice of you to join us. So, AIA, if you can hear me, can you bring us up to speed with happenings and what the atmosphere is like in the UK, with the elections underway?
Seen lots of people going in to cast their vote. Everybody has to bring a voter ID to be able to do that for the first time in a general election. When I was out and about in the streets of London yesterday, I actually have been all this week talking to people, and what I'm hearing from people is that they really want a change, and that doesn't necessarily mean that people will vote for Labour, or although we are pretty sure that they are going to have the majority in Parliament. But lots of people saying that they want a change, that they want something different because of the reasons that you've mentioned, especially the cost of living crisis, the state of the NHS, issues like immigration and geopolitics, the war in Israel, Gaza, and the war in Ukraine that the UK is involved in. So yes, where I am, very busy and people coming out to vote.
All right, Afia, you talked about the people really wanting a change. Now, a lot of predictions, seem to be in favour of Labour candidate Keir Starmer at this point. Do you think the Conservatives stand a chance of winning?
At this point, where we are with what the polls are predicting, it looks like Labour will get about 450 seats in Parliament. So our Parliament has 650 seats. You need to get just over half, so that's 326, to have a majority, to be able to make a majority government. And at the moment, it looks like Labour are predicted to get 450 of those seats. Some people calling that a super majority. At this point, for the Conservatives, it's far too late for them to be able to gain some ground. The past 14 years have taken its toll on the United Kingdom and taken its toll on voters. And so it looks like it is going to be a huge Labour and a huge swing to the left, and we will see the Conservatives in opposition this time tomorrow.
All right, Afia, now talking about the cost of living crisis in the UK, do you think that Starmer's manifesto will lead the UK to a better economy that's reversing 15 years of regression?
And that's a really good question. That's what everybody wants to know. What is Keir Starmer going to do differently that's going to reverse our fortunes? Like, everybody had a downturn after the COVID-19 pandemic, but the UK is the slowest growing economy in the EU, and everybody wants more money in their pockets, less inflation, things to be cheaper, to be paid more. Keir Starmer's policies don't differ too much from the Conservatives. The talk is actually that perhaps the Labour Party will put up taxes, and by putting up taxes we may have better public services, more money for the National Health Service. So Keir Starmer's got a lot to do in his first 100 days. He's got a lot to show the United Kingdom of how things will be better. But like I said, the policies of the Labour Party don't differ too much from those of the Conservative government. But people are so hungry for change and hungry for a different way to do things that he will speak out of this government.
All right, well, thank you so much, Afia, for that update. Now, moving away from that, Democratic governors have offered their continued support for U.S. President Joe Biden in a meeting with him to discuss the fallout from his disastrous debate performance. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said that they will stand with him after the meeting at the White House, with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz adding that 81-year-old Biden, whose debate performance was provoked or has provoked calls for him to drop out of the White House race, was fit for office.
I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him because the stakes could not be higher.
Yes, fit for office. The president has three and a half years of delivering for us, going through what we've all been through. None of us are denying Thursday night was a bad performance. It was a bad hit, if you will, on that. But it doesn't impact what I believe he's delivering.
We feel very confident in his abilities. We talked about the plan and how he's going to be very focused on issues that matter to Americans, and I felt very confident coming out.
News Central now returns after the break. Do stay. Now, in the world of sports, Nigeria Premier Football League champions Rangers International FC has secured the signature of teenage defensive midfielder Nwobodo Somtochukwu, who featured for Enugu State League finalist FC Inter. Nwobodo, who was instrumental for the State League side both in the Enugu State FA Cup and the 2024 Enugu State League, signed a 2-year deal to help defend the badge of the Flying Antelopes on Wednesday. The Nigeria Premier Football League defending champions have begun their transfer business quickly, as they have also signed Gerardo Tekena from Gombe United and Anayo Ogbonna from Shooting Stars. Kenyan marathoner Perez Jepchirchir's women-only record, that's world record, set at the London Marathon in April, has now been ratified by the World Athletics. Kenya's Jepchirchir broke the world record for a marathon as she ran 2 hours 16 minutes and 16 seconds to improve the women-only world marathon record by 45 seconds in London. Jepchirchir, who won the London Marathon, finishing 7 seconds ahead of Tigist Asefa, with Joycelyn Jebkosgei finishing third and Megetu Alemu finishing fourth, making it the first marathon in which 4 women finished inside 2 hours 17 seconds of running. Former British number 1 Emma Raducanu cruised past Belgium's Elise Mertens to join fellow Briton Sonia Kertal in a Wimbledon third round. Raducanu, given a wild card in her return to the championships after last year's injury troubles struck, clinched a 6-1, 6-2 win over Elise Mertens. Now, it is the first time she has reached the third round of a Grand Slam tournament since lifting the 2021 US Open title as an 18-year-old qualifier. Raducanu's impressive victory came a couple of hours after 22-year-old qualifier Catal produced the biggest win for her career to beat France's Clara Burel in 3 sets. Catal ranks 298th in the world, won 6-3, 5-7, 6-3 to become the first home player to reach the Wimbledon third round this year. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that federal government of Nigeria has begun drainage clearing on federal roads. We also told you that Nigeria Customs has seized 1.5 billion naira worth of firearms. Finally, you heard that voters in the UK head to polls in the UK with Labour tipped to win. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen, Usman.